Well, President Trump's victory tour continues, and this is it. Your final weekend to get 47% off new Daily Wire Plus annual memberships. Get unlimited access to uncensored, ad-free daily shows, groundbreaking documentaries, movies and series, and more. Use code 47 at dailywire.com/subscribe. All right, so President Trump's victory tour continues. Yesterday, he was on Sean Hannity's show in a long discussion with Hannity explaining how he gets things done, why he doesn't doubt himself. Here he was yesterday.
The question I have was, at any point, did you doubt you would be back here?
So it's a great question. It's something I don't think about. I never really thought about it. I don't think about, gee, will I be back? I just do it. I get it done. I get things done. I'm good at getting things done, and I set my mind to it.
Well, President Trump continued by suggesting he went through 4 years of hell and he won. Again, he's entitled to this. He was put through legitimate hell over the course of this presidential run. He was indicted a bevy of times on spurious charges. He was nearly shot to death on camera, and then he was nearly shot to death again. He's gone through the ringer. He's entitled to the victory tour.
I went through 4 years of hell by the scum that we had to deal with. I went through 4 years of hell. I spent millions of dollars in legal fees, and I won. But I did it the hard way. It's really hard to say that they shouldn't have to go through it also. It is very hard to say that.
Okay, so here is the question for President Trump. As I've been saying, we're 3 days in, and President Trump is doing an enormous number of phenomenal things. We're going to get to more of them today. The big question for President Trump is, are you going to focus on the future, or are you going to focus on the past? Are you going to focus on the things that matter, or are you going to get distracted by things that really don't? I think this is going to be a very focused administration. He's come in and he is moving with alacrity. He's moving fast. He's breaking things, and all of that is to the good. That focus, I think, is necessary because when you win, it is very easy to get distracted by the high of being on top. But right now, he does have the Democrats down for the count, and all he has to do are the 80-20 issues. That's all he has to do. All he has to do are the common sense things that people elected him to do. Well, the good news is I think President Trump knows this. He says, listen, the Democrats right now, when it comes to immigration, why are they doing this? Well, there's not really a good excuse, is there?
But here's the thing I ask. Why would somebody say that open borders are good, where jails and mental institutions from other countries and gang members right off the streets of the toughest cities in the world are being brought to the United States of America and emptied out into our country? Why would anybody that even likes, you don't have to love our country, you have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now, I watch them on television, they're trying to justify it. You can't justify it. The only reason it can be is two reasons. You're stupid, and I don't think they're stupid. I think anybody that cheats that much and that well is not stupid. You're either stupid or you hate the country. Those are the only two reasons.
Now, again, it is hard to argue with that. What exactly would be the third excuse for why you want the borders open? And President Trump, again, honed in with Sean Hannity on the issues the Democrats are getting wrong on the common sense issues, like, for example, boys are not girls.
People are learning that they can't govern and that their policies are terrible. I mean, they don't want to see a woman get pummeled by a man in a boxing ring.
No.
They don't want to see men in women's sports in other ways. They don't want to see them, and they don't want to have transgender for everyone. They don't want a child leave home as a boy and come back 2 days later as a girl. A parent doesn't want to see that. And there are states where that can happen.
Again, all of this is common sense. He says the same thing with regard to taxes. He says, listen, people do not want high taxes. Democrats want to raise your taxes. These are the common sense, middle of the road positions. Again, these are not conservative positions. If you think boys are not girls is a conservative position, or we need borders is a conservative position, or higher taxes are unpopular is a conservative position, I urge you to see a mental health specialist. Here's President Trump talking about tax policy.
This is the only group of people that want to raise your taxes. They say we want to raise your taxes. You know, if they don't work with us on the Trump tax cuts extending, that would mean we go back to the taxes. We got the largest tax cut in history. That would mean the taxes would go up more than any tax hike in the history of our country. And normally you'd say that's got to be the easiest negotiation in history, because if they did that, how could they ever win an election? But they'll fight us on that. They fight us on things. It's incredible.
Here, I ran into...
They don't use common sense. In my opinion, the Democrats don't use common sense.
Now, again, because the left has lost it, they continue to oppose this agenda, and this is ushering in a sea change, not just nationally, but internationally. So President Trump spoke yesterday at Davos, right? Davos is the World Economic Forum. According to the Wall Street Journal, President Trump and his allies used the World Economic Forum to offer the global elite a warning. He intends to follow through on his America First campaign promises, spurning allies in the process if necessary. He addressed the World Economic Forum virtually, and he did not hold back. He was introduced by WF President and CEO, a guy named Margaret, who thanked Trump for joining 3 days into the presidency. Again, things have changed just a little bit around the world with President Trump's victory.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, on behalf of all the 3,000 participants here in Davos. We really underline that joining us the third day in your presidency, live taking questions here, is so appreciated. And we are already ready for receiving you next year in person. So thank you very much, and all the best from Davos.
Thank you.
What exactly did President Trump have to say? Well, he led off by demolishing the failed Biden administration in front of a room full of people who pretended to like Joe Biden for several years. When I say pretended to like, I mean, if you ever watched any of the international events where Joe Biden appeared next to other international leaders, they could not stand him. They did not want to be around him. He was wandering off into the woods randomly during photo shoots. And when it came to President Trump, they may not have liked President Trump, but at least they respected President Trump. Here's President Trump demolishing Joe Biden in front of the international community.
My administration is acting with unprecedented speed to fix the disasters we've inherited from a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. Food prices and the price of almost every other thing known to mankind went through the roof. President Biden totally lost control of what was going on in our country, but in particular with our high inflation economy and at our border.
Now, President Trump talked a lot about American domestic policy at the WEF, but all of that was merely the precursor to him turning to international politics. He started talking about the American economy. And he said, listen, America is open for business now. You should invest in the United States of America because we are no longer attempting to exclude people from entering the American marketplace if they want to invest in the American marketplace.
America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border, immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion.
Well, then he turned to the economy. And here he starts making his threats. He says, listen, you want to invest in the United States? We'd love to have your investments in the United States. And if you don't want to work with us, then get ready for some tariffs.
My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt.
Now, again, President Trump has a love for tariffs that I think is unjustified by economic knowledge when it comes to how to bring down prices, for example, or make products more innovative. It turns out that comparative advantage is one of the great benefits of living on a planet with a huge number of people who all have a diverse skill set. If you actually pursue President Trump's policy here to its logical endpoint, which is either invest in the United States or we are going to tariff you, you end up with autarky. Autarky is not a particularly useful economic system. It tends to lead to economic stagnation, to incredibly high prices. See, it's one thing. You don't actually have to threaten people to invest in the United States. It turns out the United States receives extraordinary amounts of investment. Why? Because we're a friendly business environment here in the United States, as opposed to so many other countries around the world. If you invest in the United States, we have a robust legal system. We protect private property. You know that your money isn't just going to get stolen. It's not going to disappear. The government isn't just going to nationalize your industry. Our tax rates are very competitive. They need to be made more competitive, and President Trump is focused on that. Our labor regulations are not nearly as onerous as, for example, Europe. Right? Those are all great reasons for people to invest in the United States. If the idea is we're going to make all those things worse, and then we're going to tariff you if you don't actually come into the United States, you're just going to end up with more high prices in the United States. Do I think that Trump means this in that way? I don't. I think that what he's really just saying is, look, if you guys have not come into the United States because you have a misimpression that we're going to be pushed around on the international stage by you, wrong you are. It's not going to work that way. President Trump uses tariffs historically as leverage. He used them historically as leverage. Listen, President Trump loves leverage when it comes to the economy. The problem is so does big tech. Big tech, the so-called free services, they aren't really free at all. You pay for them by letting these huge tech companies record your activity and sell it to advertisers. If you don't want to be a product that's bought and sold, you need to start protecting your privacy online. The way I do that is with ExpressVPN. If you don't protect your online privacy, your internet service provider can see every website you visit. Third-party data brokers can collect logs from apps and websites, tracking your activity through your IP address to build an incredibly detailed profile of you. But because I use ExpressVPN, 100% of my online activity is rerouted through secure, encrypted servers. That means my ISP has no record of my activity and nothing to sell. ExpressVPN also hides my IP address, so data brokers can't track me or assemble any profiles about me. Just like that, I'm no longer a product to be sold. You don't have to be a tech expert to use it. Just one click and you're connected. And tech experts at CNET and The Verge agree, ExpressVPN is the #1 VPN. I partnered with ExpressVPN because I want all my viewers to have access to this important privacy protection. Right now, you can get an extra 4 months for free when you go to expressvpn.com/Ben. That's expressvpn.com/Ben. Get an extra 4 months totally free. Also, you know what's frustrating about running a business? The endless hours you spend chasing down receipts, managing expenses, trying to keep track of who's spending what. If you're like most business owners, you're probably juggling multiple financial tools and you still don't have a clear picture of your spending. That's why I'm excited to talk to you about Ramp. Ramp is the corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and put money back in your pocket. Think of Ramp as your financial guardian. It builds spending policies right into your corporate cards. You set the rules and limits, giving your team the freedom to make necessary purchases while maintaining control. No more surprise expenses or policy violations. What's even better? Ramp automates the entire expense reporting process. Those tedious hours spent organizing receipts, categorizing expenses, gone. Ramp's intelligent system handles it all in real time, letting you close your books 8 times faster than before. Here's what makes Ramp truly special. It brings everything under one roof. From card expenses and reimbursements to vendor payments and accounting automation, you get complete visibility of your business spending in one seamless platform. And now, get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Shapiro. 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 Cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Terms and conditions do apply. Again, there's an ideological commitment to tariffs, which suggests autarky, labor regulations being stricter in the United States, artificial restrictions on innovation, artificial restrictions on wages and prices, right? That sort of stuff. And then a threat that if you don't actually do what we want you to do, then we'll tariff you, right? That, I think, is bad economic policy. I don't think that's what President Trump is talking about. Again, historically, that is not what he's talked about. What he's talked about instead is the idea that he's going to tariff you if you don't make concessions with regard to some of your own trade barriers or your own subsidies or your own regulatory frameworks. Then he turned to foreign policy and he said, listen, I'm going to ask the NATO members to increase the defense spending.
Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago.
Okay, now, again, he is right about this as well. Rick Grenell, who is a foreign policy advisor to the president, he actually piped in to the WEF, and he appeared on screen to slam the former Dutch prime minister's stance with regard to Ukraine joining NATO. Mark Rutte had said that the NATO bloc should ensure that Russia never attacks Ukraine again by allowing Ukraine into NATO. And Grenell said, hold up, you don't get to do that. You don't get to push the burden on us as the biggest sponsor of NATO unless you also increase your funding of NATO. Quote, I think you're going to run into a big buzzsaw in America if we have the NATO Secretary General talking about adding Ukraine to NATO, said Grenell. You can't ask the American people to expand the umbrella of NATO when the current members aren't paying their fair share, and that includes the Dutch, who need to step up. Now, again, Grenell isn't wrong about that. He's not wrong about that. One of the big problems with regard to Ukraine historically has been the West writing checks they weren't willing to cash, saying to Ukraine, you should try to join the EU, you should try to join NATO, you should join the West, and then being unwilling to actually undergo the sacrifice necessary for that to happen, which tends to invite aggression from the Russians, which is precisely what the Russians did. Now, Russia, for its part, has responded to President Trump's threat of sanctions on them if they don't come to the table by saying nothing. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told Russian media, quote, we do not see any particular new elements here. Peskov added that Trump liked sanctions and used them often during his first presidential term. Peskov said Russia is ready for an equal and careful dialogue with the United States, which we had during Trump's first term. We're waiting for signals that have not yet been received. Now, we'll have to see what signals they exactly are looking for. If they're looking for President Trump to just surrender on these issues, I really doubt that is going to happen. Now, meanwhile, in other big moves, President Trump yesterday signed an order to declassify files with regard to JFK, RFK, and MLK assassinations. Here's President Trump signing that executive order.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
Well, now, realistically speaking, is there a lot left that has not been revealed? So, there was a release of many of the JFK files in 2022. According to the National Archives and Records Administration, 97% of the roughly 5 million pages in its collection related to the assassination were already public. The president promised during his first administration he would release the remaining JFK files. That included some 3,000 documents that had never been made public and 30,000 that had been previously released with redactions. But it turns out he didn't do that. Now, in 1992, Congress had mandated that all assassination documents were supposed to be released within 25 years, which again would put that number at 2017. Do I think there's going to be a lot in here? Do I think in the end, you're going to get some sort of great revelation with regards to JFK, RFK, or MLK? I really doubt it. I really doubt it because, again, the forensic data tend to show that Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole shooter of JFK, that RFK was killed by an assassin named Sirhan Sirhan, and that MLK was shot by James Earl Ray. Now, that tends to be what the evidence shows. Could there be some sort of bombshell lurking there? It's possible. I do think that this is probably going to be more like Geraldo's vault than anything else. I don't think there's going to be a lot of there, but why exactly would you not release this stuff? It's good for more to be in the public arena. Meanwhile, on immigration, President Trump is charging ahead. The press secretary, she says that the president took historic action, 10 executive orders to secure our homeland. Here she was.
Well, President Trump took historic action on his first day in the Oval Office, signing 10 executive orders to secure our homeland, secure our southern border, and launch the largest mass deportation operation in American history. And in just 33 hours of his signing with his pen, the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE got immediately to work to deport violent illegal criminals from our country. They have arrested nearly 500 of these individuals in the interior, and they will be sent home. And those flights are already underway this morning. So President Trump is delivering on his promise immediately to make America safe again.
That is Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, explaining Congress, for its part, has now cleared the Laken-Riley Act. Again, things have shifted so dramatically here that 46 Democrats supported it in the House. That's how dramatically things have shifted on illegal immigration, and that is solely due to Joe Biden. It's not even due to President Trump, because Trump was making the same case in 2015. What happened is that Joe Biden did the exact obverse. He did the opposite. He let the borders be wide open, and Americans were like, nope, don't like that at all. And that's how the Laken-Riley Act happens. The measure directs federal immigration enforcement to detain and deport those without legal status charged with minor theft or shoplifting. Representative Randy Feenstra of Iowa praised the legislation in a speech on the floor of the House ahead of the vote. Feenstra said, I look forward to President Trump signing this bill into law to let immigrants who break our laws know that they are held accountable for their crimes. The Senate, by the way, passed the bill 64-35, which is an overwhelming number. It is beyond filibuster. Right? That's a big number. Those are big numbers. And again, that is because Democrats recognize it is politically toxic to oppose common sense alternatives with regard to illegal immigration. The first images, by the way, of ICE mass deportations show arrests of MS-13 gang members, murder suspects. That is not a giant shock because, of course, if you are the administration, the first people you are going to deport are the criminals. Those are the people you're going to focus in on. You're going to wait to deport the nanny until you've gotten through everybody else because maybe she can make a case for why she ought to be in the country. But when it comes to MS-13 members, there is no reason in anyone's mind why those people should be in the country. This led to one of the unbelievable clips of the day. This one was out of ICE Boston, an illegal immigrant from Haiti with 17 convictions was filmed being taken away. And here's what he had to say.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
Yep. Well, saying the quiet part out loud right there. Thank Obama for everything he did for me. Thank Obama for everything. Thank you, Joe Biden. Yep. Well, I think we know maybe now why Joe Biden wanted an open border. Maybe. It turns out that if you wish to craft an entirely new body politic, a great way of doing that is opening the border and then amnestying as many people as possible. Turns out that is an excellent way of doing it. And that guy just said the quiet part out loud. Well, if our prior immigration system seems kind of sick, you don't need to be sick this year. You need to make sure that you're maintaining your health. That's what I'm doing. Hitting the gym, spending time with my family, even with my busy work schedule. When I was younger, I used to think I could just power through on pure conservative willpower and caffeine. I learned pretty quickly peak performance requires peak nutrition, which means eating enough veggies. Well, I don't like veggies, so I'm very thankful to have balance of nature, which fits right into even the busiest of days. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and veggies every day. That sounds miserable and time-consuming. Well, with balance of nature fruits and veggies, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and veggies daily. Balance of Nature takes fruits and veggies, they freeze dry them, they turn them into a powder, and then they put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows precisely what to do with them. It's kosher, which means I can pop that right into the protein smoothie and keep this rockin' bod going strong. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro. They've been helping me get through a season where everyone around me seems to be getting pretty sick all the time. Well, not I, because balanceofnature.com has been making it happen for me. Balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Also, have you ever heard of Rosparks? This dual-action prescription merges the powerhouse ingredients found in generic Viagra and Cialis into one formidable treatment. But it's not merely about the ingredients in the medication, it's how you're taking it. Rosparks are designed to dissolve under your tongue, allowing the treatment to hit your bloodstream faster than old-school pills. This method allows for fast absorption directly into the bloodstream, bypassing the digestive system. The result, quicker onset of action, reducing the wait time typically associated with traditional pills. Plus, tadalafil, the active ingredient in Cialis, lasts in the system for up to 36 hours. Find out if prescription Rosparks is right for you. To get $15 off your first order and find out if prescription Rosparks are right for you, connect with a provider at ro.co/Ben. That's ro.co/Ben for $15 off your first order. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Only available if prescribed after an online consultation with a provider. Go check them out right now. See if Rosparks are correct for you. Connect with the provider, ro.co/Ben. That's ro.co/Ben for $15 off your first order. Meanwhile, Stephen Miller, who of course has been a longtime immigration hawk, he's the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and an advisor to Homeland Security. He said we are going to see a massive scale up in enforcement activities.
The initial immigration raids have already arrested and removed some of the most vicious criminals in this country, including child cases, homicide cases, assault, attacks on children. And this is just the very beginning in the effort to liberate this country from the migrant criminal threat. In the coming days, you're going to see a massive scale up in enforcement activities all across the country to dismantle these criminal networks. And not only is it going to be ICE engaging these raids, but but also they're going to have support from their law enforcement partners in FBI, ATF, DEA, and U.S. Marshals. We're going to leverage the full power of federal law enforcement at President Trump's command and direction to save this country from this occupation.
Right. He then continued. He suggested, listen, if you try to shelter criminal illegal immigrants, then we are going to charge you criminally, which, of course, this is all common sense. It's all common sense.
You're also going to see, as you mentioned, the Department of Justice pursuing civil and, if necessary, criminal charges against anybody who shelters or harbors criminal aliens. That includes individuals in sanctuary cities who are harboring violent and dangerous criminals from federal law enforcement. The tables have turned, and now those who protect criminal aliens are going to face the legal consequences that exist in statute.
Now, the Trump administration is apparently weighing sending 10,000 troops to the border and using bases to hold illegal immigrants. That's according to CBS News. Again, on Wednesday, the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, told reporters the president had signed another executive order to deploy 1,500 troops to the southern border. There are already 2,500 troops down there. But an internal CBP memo dated January 21st indicates a plan to dispatch about 10,000 soldiers to help the agency's mission at the southern border. Bottom line is, this administration is taking illegal immigration incredibly seriously. Now, meanwhile, a federal judge, has temporarily blocked President Trump's executive order aiming at ending birthright citizenship. Now, as we discussed a little bit earlier in the week when Trump signed this was exactly what was going to happen. This is always going to end up at the Supreme Court level. The president does not really have the ultimate capacity to simply determine who is a citizen and who is not under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, I think that Trump's interpretation is correct, by the way. I think that when it says in the 14th Amendment, born, naturalized, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof means you're not subject to your foreign citizenship jurisdiction. If you're here illegally, for example, and you have a baby, the baby, if you are a Mexican citizen, you're here illegally, for example, the baby's a Mexican citizen. That means not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The baby should not be an American citizen simply because the baby was born here. However, that was always going to end up in the Supreme Court. In a written ruling issued on Thursday, U.S. District Judge John Konauer entered a temporary restraining order prohibiting the Trump administration from implementing the executive order until he can hear arguments over its legality. The federal government has long recognized birthright citizenship. The court ruling is one of the first legal hurdles Trump faces as he seeks to deliver on his campaign promise to crack down on illegal immigration. Now, listen, this, I think, smacks of a Trump political win, even if he loses, meaning if this goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules the other way, Trump can say he tried to do what he could. And no act of Congress would have been able to trump the Supreme Court's interpretation of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution without another constitutional amendment. But as I say, this was always going to end up being adjudicated inside the judiciary. It was never going to be decided by simple EO. That was never going to happen. Now, meanwhile, in a further list of good news, President Trump is doing things for the pro-life movement. That began yesterday, and our own senior White House reporter, Margaret Olohan, she was on scene at the White House reporting this. Mary, great to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Ben. Great to be here.
So tell me about what you've learned about pardons for pro-lifers wrongly imprisoned under Joe Biden's Justice Department. You knew about this a little bit early.
Yes, so we were the first to report yesterday morning that Donald Trump was imminently about to pardon the pro-life activists unjustly prosecuted by the Biden DOJ. And sure enough, several hours later, Donald Trump did exactly that from the Oval Office, signed an executive order pardoning 23 pro-life activists. And of course, the Thomas More Society, the law firm representing these guys, had petitioned Trump to pardon them. They were waiting with breathless anticipation. So as soon as we got the news, they were rejoicing. All these pro-lifers many of them were reunited with their families last night. So just really exciting, heartwarming stories and a hopeful sign to a lot of people that Donald Trump is ready to fulfill many campaign promises made on life.
Now, Mary Margaret, you've also learned some important news regarding Vice President J.D. Vance and the March for Life. I spoke at the March for Life a few years ago. Apparently, J.D. Vance is going to be doing the same.
Yes, we were excited to be the first to report also that J.D. Vance will be speaking at the March for Life today, the 52nd annual March for Life here in Washington, D.C., where many, many pro-lifers will be gathered to march against abortion. And I'm told this is a really good sign of Vance's attitudes towards life, about the administration's attitudes towards life. Of course, we already know that J.D. Vance is staunchly pro-life Catholic, but I'm told that this is signaling a strong pro-life, pro-family approach from the administration, and Vance is going to be heading that.
Mary Margaret, really appreciate the reporting.
Thanks for having me.
Now, meanwhile, President Trump is making moves on the foreign front as well. Some I think are good and some are a little bit more mixed. We'll get to all that in just one moment. First, it's the final weekend to get 47% off your new Daily Wire Plus annual membership. 47% because, of course, we are celebrating Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States. Our celebration will continue, but the deal ends Sunday. All you need to do is head on over to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code 47. You'll lock in 47% off for an entire year of Daily Wire Plus. The Daily Shows, our original groundbreaking entertainment, including the #1 documentary of the decade, Am I Racist? And so much more. Every buck you spend goes directly back into the fight to bring you the facts and reshape culture. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code 47 at checkout, and let's build the future together. Okay, meanwhile, President Trump is making some interesting moves in the Middle East. It's hard to sort of read the tea leaves on what exactly he's expecting there. On the one hand, on the good side, President Trump made his very first call as president to any foreign leader to Mohammed bin Salman, who, of course, is the essentially leader of Saudi Arabia. MBS is famously somebody who wants to join the Abraham Accords, wants to modernize his nation. He has also pledged a $600 billion investment into the United States, the Crown Prince. According to the Associated Press, he said on Thursday, the kingdom wants to invest $600 billion in the United States over the next 4 years. Comments that came after President Trump earlier put a price tag on returning to the kingdom as his first foreign trip. The comments reported early Thursday by the state-run Saudi press agency came in a phone call with President Trump. That marked Trump's first phone call with a foreign leader since his inauguration on Monday. The reason that is positive is because when it comes to the Middle East, basically you now have 4 forces that are shaping the Middle East. One is Iran, which has been thoroughly beaten over the course of the last year in terms of all of its proxies. Its proxy forces from Hezbollah to the Houthis to Hamas have basically been downgraded or wiped out. Okay, and then you have the Turks. The Turks have been really flexing their muscles in Syria. The takeover of Syria by a terrorist offshoot of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, that really was Turkish. That was Erdogan in Turkey, who basically turned a client of his, a terror client of his, into the leaders of the new Syria. Then you have the Israelis. The Israelis obviously have defended themselves quite capably over the course of the last year and a half, destroying most of the battalions of Hamas, destroying thoroughly Hezbollah's military capacity, hitting Hezbollah so hard, actually, that Syria fell because Syria was deeply reliant on Hezbollah, striking Iran directly, taking out its air defenses. And then finally, you have the Saudis. And the Saudis have been basically attempting to forge an alliance with the Israelis. And that's always been just beyond the horizon. If Donald Trump had been reelected the first time, then that would have been cleared. After October 7th in 2023, after the war in Gaza, Saudi has been wanting to get into the Abraham Accords, particularly because, again, Iran is still out there, which is a threat to Saudi Arabia, and Turkey is a threat to Saudi Arabia because Turkey likes to sponsor the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood is a threat to the Saudi monarchy. So President Trump reaching out to the Saudis is quite a good thing. That is a very, very good move, and being able to secure a massive investment from the Saudis in America is definitely a good thing. He is also demanding that Saudi Arabia and OPEC lower the oil prices. He was at Davos doing just that. Here he was explaining.
I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war.
Now, that's kind of a fascinating take because, again, President Trump was portrayed as somebody who didn't care what happened in Ukraine. Bringing down the oil prices undercuts the Russian market. That's kind of the idea here. Russia is making its money by selling oil at bargain basement prices and then shipping it through third parties to places including Europe. The United States has filled in a lot of that gap. If Saudi were to start pumping at a serious rate, then they would be undercutting the Russian oil prices as well. And then Russia would basically be strangled in terms of its own economy. So it's fascinating. He wants more money from Saudi, but lower oil prices. At the same time, he is reaching out to the Saudis. Well, in later news, the Oscars are upon us. The nominations are out, and they are as absurd as you might believe they were. They are just ridiculous. So first of all, they will be hosted by Conan. Now, listen, I think Conan used to be one of the funniest people in America. I'm not so sure he's still got it. I haven't seen anything funny from Conan for years and years and years. He's a safer choice than somebody like a Ricky Gervais, for example. But will he be better than Jimmy Kimmel? Listen, anybody will be better than Jimmy Kimmel. A bag of flaming dog crap would be better than Jimmy Kimmel at this point. Then there are the actual nominations. And man, are they woking up the joint. Whoa. Whoa. These nominations are the wokest Hollywood nominations for Oscars I have seen since like last year. Like this is wild, but actually really, really, really like insanely woke. So the number one movie in terms of nominations and close to leading in the all-time nominee list is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my entire life. It is called Emilia Perez. It is legitimately a bottom 5 film. I have seen thousands of films at this point in my life. Emilia Perez is one of the 5 worst movies I have ever seen. Now, ironically, another Best Picture winner, The Shape of Water, is also in that list. But Emilia Perez is, if anything, worse than Shape of Water. If you wish to see a full-scale 20-minute review of Emilia Perez, head on over to our YouTube page, where I actually reviewed it soup to nuts, went through all the numbers. It's horrifying. It's a musical, for those who don't know, about a transgender Mexican drug cartel leader who contacts a lawyer, played by Zoe Saldana, to help him transition into her. And then ends up in a bizarre familial situation with his ex-wife, Selena Gomez, who's having an affair with another guy. Well, I mean, she doesn't know she's having an affair because as far as she knows, her husband's dead. It turns out that her husband isn't dead. He just chopped off the appendages. And it's a musical. It's awful, awful, awful. Now, it's not just that this has received 13 nominations, almost as many nominations as All About Eve, one of the great films of all time, with 14 nominations. It came in, basically, it's tied for second for the most nominations in Academy Awards history, which is just absurd on every level. One of the nominees is a person named Carla Sofia Gascon. Now, Carla Sofia Gascon is a dude and is nominated for Best Actress. Best Actress. This person is a man. This man started transitioning in, I kid you not, 2018. In 2018, this person completed most of, quote unquote, her gender transition. This person is 52 years old. So this person started becoming a woman in, quote unquote, her 40s, and now is defeated. Listen, ladies, if you want to demonstrate your full-scale inferiority, it seems to me that nominating a man to win Best Actress is a pretty good way of doing that. By the way, can't sing, not a particularly good actor. Carla Sofia Gascon didn't do anything in the role, really. In fact, the only time Carla Sofia Gascon is actually convincing is when, quote unquote, she is playing a man at the beginning, because guess what? Dude. That would be a dude. The song El Mal is nominated for Best Original Song, which is ridiculous because it's not a good song at all. It's a terrible film. And of course, the only reason it's being nominated is because it's everything, right? It's everything having to do with Trump. This is all just an anti-Trump Hollywood bleep fit. That's all this is. It's a story about Mexico, which of course Trump thinks is terrible. And it's a story about a man who believes that he is a woman. Okay. The movie's so bad. I mean, honestly, I don't want to do a re-review of the movie. Go check out my review at YouTube. All I will say is that the entire movie glorifies a man who decides to mutilate himself, abandon his family, and is a drug cartel leader. And that's the hero of the film. So yeah, it's also, the music is just, it sounds, the music sounds as though a deaf and dumb rapper wrote it. That's what it sounds like. Meanwhile, other prominent nominations. Sebastian Stan has been nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role for The Apprentice, which of course is a movie about Donald Trump. That movie failed at the box office. Nobody really wanted to see it. I haven't seen it myself because frankly, I didn't find it all that interesting. First of all, if you're going to do a movie about Donald Trump as a young man, it can't be a drama. It sort of has to be a comedy. I mean, we all remember Donald Trump as a young man, at least those of us who are older than the age of 20. Donald Trump's been part of our public life since the 1970s. So I don't know. So he gets nominated. That, of course, is just a way of slapping Donald Trump, of course. The other nominees for Best Picture are Honora, a charming story about a prostitute who falls in love with a Russian gangland leader's son. That's Honora. The Brutalist, which I have not yet seen, but I'm interested to see, which is about a Jewish refugee who comes to the United States and is apparently an amazing architect, and his experiences with American capitalism. I'm not sure I'm going to love the thematic of it, but it is Adrian Brody and Guy Pearce, and seems at least somewhat interesting. A Complete Unknown, which is the Bob Dylan movie. Conclave, which is a horrifying piece of trash. Conclave, as I talked about, I didn't even see the movie. I just read the book. When I read the book, I was like, there's no way you're going to put me through seeing this movie. No way. Spoiler alert, the twist ending in Conclave is that the whole thing is about the Pope dies, and it's the College of Cardinals figuring out who's the new Pope. Spoiler alert, it's the trans lady from Emilia Perez. It's actually an intersex person. And it turns out that some of the cardinals know this and go along with it because it's too late to reverse it. Which, do you even Catholic, bro? That is not a thing. Okay, Dune Part 2 is nominated, but certainly will not win because it's the best movie of the year, so we can't have that. We can't have nice things. So nobody's even mentioned Dune Part 2 as a possible winner. Nobody's even, it's, I believe, except for Wicked, the highest box office on this list, and nobody's even mentioned it. Emilia Perez, I already mentioned. A movie called I'm Still Here, which is a foreign film about a person who was disappeared by the Brazilian government in the 1970s. A movie called Nickel Boys, which I'm not sure did anything at the box office, and is it's sort of the Academy sop to covering race this year. So again, it's an issue movie based on the Colson Whitehead book about a boys' school, a racist boys' school in the South in the 1960s. A movie called The Substance, which is a body horror film starring Demi Moore as an aging actress who decides to do terrible things in order to assure that basically a doppelganger of her, a young doppelganger of her, can become a star. And Wicked. So, terrible list of films. Truly bad list. I mean, really, really, really bad. And to be fair, I've seen 4 of these films, I believe. Dune 2 is by far the best of these films, and it will certainly not win. For Best Director, Emilia Perez's director won a Best Director award slot, which I don't understand at all. And then you have the directors of Honora, The Brutalist, The Substance, and A Complete Unknown. Actor in a leading role, you have Adrian Brody for The Brutalist. He's supposed to be terrific. Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown. He's supposed to be terrific. I'm not a big Chalamet fan, but he's supposed to be really, really good in this film. Coleman Domingo as in the movie called Sing Sing, which I've never even heard that movie. I don't know what that is. Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, meh, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. So, yeah, again, you have a couple of heavy hitters going up against one another in that particular category. Actress in a leading role, the only thing that matters here is that you have a dude who's in this category. So first of all, I just want to know, why does the Academy insist on having separate actor and actress? Because obviously these categories mean nothing. You could just combine them, especially since in Hollywood, we're now supposed to say that actresses are actors. You're not supposed to say actress in normal conversation. When you go to Hollywood and you meet an actress, you're supposed to call her an actor because she might be a man or something, because it's a sexist category. So I'm not sure why the Oscars continue with this, except as a form of affirmative action to, I would say, biological women, but it's no longer even relegated to that. Other nominees include Cynthia Erivo, who I think was terrific in Wicked, Mikey Madison in Honora, which I haven't seen, Demi Moore, who's supposed to be good in The Substance, and Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here, which I have not seen. When it comes to documentary feature film, the only other issue here is that No Other Land, which is a wildly anti-Israel piece of propaganda, agitprop, was nominated. Am I Racist, the number one documentary of the last decade, did not receive a nomination from the Oscars, but again, I don't think that is a complete shock. So there you are, a bunch of trash movies nominated for the highest awards in Hollywood, because that's how all of this works. All right, coming up, we'll be getting into the media and their failed response to President Trump's winning again. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.